Hello, welcome back to another Tabletop Talk. Today I thought I would take a few minutes to talk about Strat-O-Matic baseball and what I think about it. A lot of this has been covered in bits and pieces in other videos, but I have been meaning to make a video just talking about this and specifically, so I thought I would do that. A little bit in line of what Dave Gardner's doing with what I like about this game, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about what I don't like about this game. So, a couple tabletop videos ago, I'd kind of talked about how that after experimenting with some other sims and even other sports, that Strat-O-Matic baseball has returned back to my favorite and the one that I enjoy the most. And so I'd going to talk about that. I got some notes here, nothing in particular chronological. I'm sure there'll be some things I miss, but just wanted again to take a few minutes to talk about why it has become my favorite. And as usual, I'd like to preface it with this is no slam on other games. This is just my opinion. What I like and what I don't like may not be what you like or don't like. That doesn't mean there's a right or a wrong. We all have preferences, things that are important to us, things that are not quite as important. So, but I do enjoy hearing other people's input as to what they're playing and why they like it and their reviews of it, because it does help hone mine, whether I have the game or not. And quite often there's things that are put in certain ways that I don't think about that is helpful. And so other than just sharing, I thought this might be helpful as to why after all these years and trying different games, Strat is kind of back on the top shelf of everything. So, but again, not to say that these other games aren't great. They are wonderful games. It's just, and I still enjoy them, but why Strat is still the king in my gaming world. So again, no particular order. One thing I want to start out talking about is their ratings. So there is no gaming system, no baseball sim that is going to catch everything perfectly. Error ratings you can get pretty scientific about. You know, you got your errors per chances and things like that. Range, an arm. Speed rating, things like that. That's a subjective art form. And as I have gone on my baseball sim journey, I'm finding that it's more important to me than I thought it was at first. So if I'm having trouble trusting the Sim's rating system, it does detract a bit from the enjoyment for me. And so having said that, I believe in my mind Strat to be the king of that. And again, that can be a subjective thing, I guess, because of their history, their track record. A lot of people in the game itself have lended some credence to their ratings and their ability to rate things that are subjective like that. So when it comes to putting a game on my tabletop, for me, I trust Strat the most. And it seems to match up closest to reality to me. And again, I understand a lot of this is subjective. So there are some other games who, and this is maybe hard to explain, but the results will come out right. People have the right averages and the right home runs and things like that, but they get there at the sacrifice of some ratings that don't make sense. So to me, it's not just that the final results come out well. It's important to me that the representation of the player as a whole be as accurate as possible. And so if a player is a good base runner, I want that to be represented in their card, and I want the results to come out realistic. And so if they're a good fielder, I want it to be representative, because to me, that's a big part of the enjoyment of this is getting to know these players and their abilities. And so I want my baseball sim to come as close to reality, to be as accurate as possible. Again, understanding that this is a subjective thing. And so for me personally, my faith is more in Strat-O-Matic than any other game that there is. They seem to me to come the closest to representing these players and getting the results to come out realistic of any sim that I have come across. And again, surprisingly, that's more of a bigger deal to me than I thought it would be as I embarked on my adventure of trying other games. And so I probably would say that would be right up there, tops, as to why Strat would be my favorite baseball sim, is because of that. So another thing I like about Strat, and again, there's no particular order, there'll be some likes, some not so likes, is that the results are on the cards. When I have my my game on the table, I find that I like to have as minimal on the table as possible, as minimal looking up. I don't like really flipping through charts as much. Now, again, app is a great game, and I don't hate it, but just as a preference, I like that the results are on the cards and very minimal chart lookup. And so, to me, I like that. Replay baseball, you have to look up the results, but they've got that really handy trifold to where you can set that on your table and you can see, the whole thing right there without flipping through a book. And so for me, I prefer that. I like having the results, most of them right on the cards and the minimal charts. Another thing that I like about the Strat cards is that they are random. I've been watching some other videos like Pine Tar, Atba, Replay. A lot of those games, even Payoff Pitch, is like, for example, either doubles are a good deal, 6-6, is a big deal, or the lower numbers are a big deal and the higher numbers are outs. And so you see that in a lot of games. I like that Strat has the results varied. So 6-6, could be anything depending on who the player is, who the card is, who the pitcher is, and I like that. I like that a lot better than knowing, okay, if I roll a 6-6, it's probably going to be a home run if this person hit home runs. If I get doubles, like on Replay, 2-2, it's going to be a single 95% of the time. Whereas with Strat, if you roll a 2-2, it could be anything. And so half the fun is kind of looking at the card and even memorizing the card. I mean, once you start doing a replay, what your power hitters' home runs are, and so I prefer that. I think that's really cool. It gives it an element of randomness that feels more like the cards have personalities. Each player is not the same, because of how they do that. I believe in 1980, they actually dabbled with putting all the hits like in the 4 column, and that didn't go over well at all. And so they went back to making them random, which I'm glad, because to me, that's kind of a selling point. Customer service, Strat obviously has a long history of not being great in that, and they're not as good as some of the new companies, guys like Joe at Payoff Pitch and those guys at Replay, they just run circles around, some of the bigger ones. But I will say that my interaction with customer service at Strat lately has been much improved. I think maybe they are aware of some of the complaints in the community and are trying to take some strides to improve. So I hope that's the case. And again, I've been very pleased with them the last year or so. No complaints. And a big one for Strat is the availability of card sets. App obviously has every set available. Strat, I will say, since the pandemic, they are doing a good job of, they're doing 2 seasons per year, recreating, and then they're also republishing. Right now, they seem to be doing once a month. They just did 61 and then 73 this month in May of 2022. Last month it was 1961, and I didn't have either one of those seasons, so I was glad to pick those up. So, because of that, picking up seasons that are out of print can be really expensive if you want to go that route, and you don't have that problem with ATBA and Replay, because they, if they create them, they keep them going, and so it's a concern for a lot of gamers. For me too, but again, with them reproducing more lately, it's not as big a deal. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I am a collector. Part of the hobby for me is collecting, and I would like to have every season from 1901 till 2000. But realistically, I'll never play the seasons I have. I think I'm up to about 45 Strat seasons, 45 and a half. I have the 1984 National League. So I think 45 and a half is where I'm at. And so, I could play that the rest of my life and, probably not get to all of them. And they're continuing to add new ones. 47 this year, 86 was redone. And so those were exciting. So, they are making some strides in that. Again, not where ATBA is. So for me, that's kind of a negative, but not as negative as it used to be. One good thing is the computer version, you can get every single season. They have every season available, even the ones they've never created a card set for. They did computer generated, and so you can have every season from 1901 till now. Actually, I even believe they've got some pre-turn of the century, back in the 1800s. They've got a really good collection of Negro League full seasons. I'd like for them to do that, a card set of those, at least one, but they do have them on computer, and they're prorated. Again, with Negro League seasons, you have to kind of do some finagling, because, they didn't do full seasons. They did a lot of barnstorming. The stats are not as, easy to get a hold of as Major League, but still, you can take one of their recreated seasons. It's prorated, I think, for like 154 games, and have a lot of fun with that. So in the computer, they have, again, every season available. And, if you don't need the cards in hand, that's a very good option. Of course, the computer is very 1990s DOS oriented, and, but it's functional. Once you get familiar with it, it does a lot of things. What few improvements they make are actually inside the game. Like, for example, this year you're able to, when you install a new season, you can combine the leagues so that you've got a database for the AL and the NL in the same file. As before, you could only have AL or NL if they were years where they didn't have interleague play. And so things like that, they're constantly improving on. It's not very buggy, as I've noticed. Again, having the same software for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. You would hope they'd work the bugs out by now. But and the stat package is very good. There are some things that I would like to be able to do, like the 20-sided dice roll for wild pitches and things like that. I'd like to be able to do that myself. Rolling the dice for the steals to get a lead, and I would like to be able to do that myself. And those are kind of just auto done, even if you choose to roll your own dice. But a lot of it, you can do as much cards and dice. You can input your own input your own stats if you want to do it completely on the table, or you can input the dice roll, and it does the computating for you, which is good. As many of you have seen in my videos, quite often I read the cards wrong, and because I'm using the computer, it will correct me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I was looking at the wrong column. So the computer game is very functional, and again, all the seasons are available on that. So and for me, staying on the computer for a little bit, that is a great big deal for me. I find that for me personally, I just don't like managing both teams. I just find that from my enjoyment, I'm constantly second guessing myself. I can do it, and I'm better at it than I used to be. I just like having a computer manager, even if the computer manager does some things that make me scratch my head sometimes. And again, in Strat, it doesn't give you the option to nix a play like replay computer game does, but you can kind of finagle it. Like if they're not taking a pitcher out, and they should, at least you feel like they should, I can switch it to human manager, take the pitcher out, and so you can work around that a little bit. But again, I like, and I've been pretty impressed with it. The computer manager does a good job. When I do as play or as carded, it does a good job of making the lineups. It seems to do a pretty decent job of giving players rest and using players like if they were used at multiple positions, kind of getting their games in at those positions. So far, the computer manager and computer GM seems to do a good job. Most of the modern seasons even will do minor leagues and major leagues for you. So if you choose to have 25 man rosters and you want 10 pitchers, it'll kind of stay close to that, so you don't have 35 people on the roster. Again, most of the newer seasons have that ability. Some of the older ones don't. But having that ability for it basically to run the other teams for you is a really handy feature. Seems to do a good job. So again, the ratings probably what is a big one in having a computer manager and having the computer keep the stats. Those are three things that for me make my enjoyment of the hobby. I get more games in, and so because of the computer version, that's a big deal for me because of those two items. The three options of Strat is really cool. Is that you've got the basic, the advanced, and the super advanced all in the same game. You don't have to buy different versions. It all comes with the package, and so that is a good feature. A lot of people, as you watch videos, a lot of people like doing, basics. Some like advanced, some like super advanced. So having that option is a good thing, and I like that. Again, it's all in the same game. The 50-50, not oddly enough, that was a bigger deal for me. It has become less of a big deal for me. I had somebody explain this to me, is that when you think about it, it's like when you have a batter and a pitcher, basically you've got one great big card. And, that makes sense. Payoff pitch, again, has, in my mind, the best batter-pitcher interaction because, based on the quality of the pitch, will skew the results on the batter's card. I like that a lot. But again, 50-50 is, when I started searching for other games, aside from the customer service and the lack of seasons available, the 50-50 was one of my main reasons for wanting to try other games. But having tried other games, I find that the 50-50 doesn't bother me as much as it did. Still, if you bring in your ace reliever and never roll a 4, 5, or 6, that can be a little frustrating. But again, the odds are the same. You've got one great big card, 1 through 6, and obviously the odds change based on who those two players are. And so I find that that's not as big a deal for me as it used to be. The details of the game, especially the super advanced, which is what I play, it just seems to be that right mix of, and this may be a long video, hopefully you'll bear with me. It's the right mix of detail and playability. I know those of you who have read the book of, I can't, the guy's escaping me, the guy who created the game. Oh, man. But playability was a big deal for him, and I think you can see it in the way the game plays. And so even, like, for example, the 1947 season, the new season, they actually have, how people pull double play chances, fly balls to ground balls. That's in the cards, and you don't have to do anything extra to get that added level of detail. the X ratings, the way they rate range and arm. You get a good variety there, especially on the super advanced X chart. You can, you do the range and the error all in one check, and it's all on one chart, and it's very easy to find that result. And the base running, you got the stars, and then sometimes you have the ability to take extra bases. Trying to figure out, what to compute into that is relatively simple. Just a couple things you need to remember, and there's enough. Again, not every play you have to make that decision. Some plays it's just 2 stars. There you go. Some plays it's okay, you have the opportunity, and there seems to be just a perfect mix of that. There's enough of it that it feels like the ratings matter, but not so much to where I'm constantly bogged down trying to calculate what's going to happen. And so for me, that's a very big deal. The lefty-righty splits, having them for the pitcher and the batter both is very cool to me. And again, you have to be careful with that because sometimes you can strat manage instead of baseball manage. But still, overall, I want those splits because to me that's a big part of baseball. Certain players, their performance was greatly changed depending on which side of the plate they were hitting from or which side of the mound was being thrown at them. And so that's a big, big part of the game, and I want it part of my baseball sim, and I think Strat does a really good job of that. Again, you just have to look at one side of the card or the other, and very simple. And it does a really good job of that. It even puts the percentages of how much they faced there on the card. So if you've got a lefty and, they only face 5% of the lefties, then, that helps you to kind of gauge, to try to make sure that you're not overusing them on lefties, which when I'm doing replays by myself, that's, I'm trying to do it like the real manager would to a certain degree. When you're doing as carded, you're actually managing a little bit in hindsight because you know the results, but the other teams are too. And so, of course, when you and as played, they're doing that, kind of, and, they didn't have the advantage. So sometimes they will put a guy in batting fourth who hit 140 with no home runs, and so, but again, the lefty righty is easy and it's there for, both. And then you got the, wild pitches, balks, pass balls, ballpark effects. It's really fun. Crosley Field, most of the games I'm playing was a hitter's park, and you knew it. Comiskey, not so much. And so, it just really plays into the game. And again, it doesn't make it complicated. It's just, if you got a triangle or a diamond, you check it on the chart, and there you go. And so I really like that. So the amount of detail with the ease of play for the games I've played, Strat is just right there among the tops. It just flows, and it's, again, I'm not having to constantly second guess myself that I forgot something because there's just so many steps to try to remember. And card quality, not so great. They're perforated. I prefer pre-cut like they used to be back in the 80s. No extra players is a big negative. Replay, payoff pitch, either they are all printed or you can get them as a PDF. Strat-O-Matic, you can do the cardless players, which is not a bad option, or you can, if you have the computer version, you can print that off. I know some have said the card viewer is another option that you can print off the fringe players. At this point, I just prefer to do as carded most of the time and go with that. I kind of enjoy that because that's kind of how I played it as a kid. You had your cards and you put the Astros versus the Braves, and whoever had cards, that was who was available for the game. And so I kind of like that. Again, it's not as realistic, but it gives it a little bit more of an open-endedness to it, so you can have a little bit more possibilities of what might happen as opposed to what did happen, but still within realistic, parameters. So again, the card quality is not so great. I do like that they're printing the basic sides with the charcoal or the light gray now, as opposed to the blue. I like that a lot. The classic cards from the 70s and 80s where they didn't have any color, I like those too. But you kind of get to where the red and the blue, you kind of know, which side of the plate you're on. But I do like the gray on the basic that they've been doing the last couple of years. But again, the card quality, they hold up. They're nothing like Payoff Pitch, who has the best cards in the game, in my opinion. But you know, they suffice. They do what they need to do. Community, obviously, with Strat being one of the biggest, you have a lot of people who play it, a lot of videos that you can check out, and kind of two things. They kind of help you get ideas about how you like to play, different replays you might like, questions as to how to play certain things. And again, Strat doesn't have a lot of confusion. It's pretty straightforward. The instructions are pretty easy. The game is laid out very well, but you still got a lot of options on YouTube and Delphi forums to get information and motivation to play. Baseball demos has been a great motivator for me to play Strat. When you see somebody playing something on the table, it makes you want to grab it out and play it yourself. So really good community with Strat. Rare plays, not the greatest. Replay has probably the best. I know Payoff Pitch upped their game with their update last year, but there's some rare plays, I know, but not a lot. Not as much as I would like, but there's some. And so, price, they're one of the more expensive, especially with their shipping practices. Is they do have a cheaper version I've noticed lately, where it's like Kurt Berglund says, probably involves someone yelling mush to get to it. So I usually end up going for the second lowest rung. So they do have that option where you can get it 3 months later. But they're not the cheapest, and again, you don't get every player. So but again, Dave Gardner had a wonderful thing about, okay, when you get a season and if you play 100 games, you're 50 cents a game. Where else can you get that kind of value for your entertainment dollar? And I think that's a very good way to put it. A big one for me, and this, is the nostalgia factor. So when I talk about all these things, I'm trying to be objective. I've had the benefit of trying other games. I'm not coming at this as somebody who has looked at other games from afar. But still, I can't help but wonder how much the fact that I started with Strat affects how I feel about it. And so, I was willing to try other games, so it's not affecting it a lot. I really think that these opinions are actually just how I feel based on, having tried other games and what I'm looking for. But again, I don't know how much of that might be affected by the fact that that's what I'm used to. If I had started with APBA or, some other game, there's definitely the nostalgia there. It feels like visiting an old friend when you pull out the cards and, the 3 dice and the 20-sided die. Of course, it used to be split cards, but still, when you get that green board out there, there is a feeling of, kind of coming home. And so it definitely plays into it. But as to what degree, I'm not for sure, probably, again, some. So anyway, that's all the notes I had. And so again, I continue, I'll definitely continue to play the other games, replay, Payoff Pitch. Matter of fact, I've been getting the itch to pull out History Maker, which is the most unusual game that I have, the most unlike the other ones, I should say. And I've been wanting to pull that out and give that a go, because I hadn't played that in a while. As you all notice, my game mat is History Maker, oddly enough. You think I would have done Strat, but the Field of Dreams, which is kind of my muse, the watching Joe Jackson Shoeless Joe Jackson play baseball in your backyard. With the other White Sox is kind of my again my muse for my hobby. But again, so I'll keep playing those. They're great games. But for me, Strat is the one that I enjoy the most, and for those reasons. It's just a great classic game. I still think that it's, I don't know this. I'm sure it's one of the top two in the market. Even with all these new wonderful games, it still does very well. And again, I think it's because of the things that I mentioned. It does a lot of things well. No game is perfect, but this one, for me, scratches more itches than any other. So, been excited lately. I've spent a lot of time experimenting, and I don't feel like that was a wasted journey. It was fun, enjoyable. Getting things in the mail is always fun, but been kind of excited about digging in and actually getting some games done. Those of you who watching the channel, got 1947 going on every game for that one. I got 1920 White Sox, which is in just about into July on that one. I do have 1954 in replay in payoff pitch. Was kind of going back and forth on that one. Started 1968 with the Reds. Got a really short 1990 in LCS with the Pirates and the Reds. One game apiece on that one. And again, just now that I'm experimented, tried some different games, now taking some time to dig in and, actually get some games played. I admire these guys on Delphi Forum who have replayed, every game of 5 seasons. These guys put the games away. So, in my best, I probably average maybe 1.5 games a day. So, probably one during the week, during the weekend, I get a couple. I find that if I play too many games, I enjoy thinking about the games a little bit, and if I'm playing too many, it all runs together. So I enjoy, I don't want to play too many. So probably, 3 to 4 is the most I'll do in a day. But again, I'm making some hay now and getting some results and some stats. That's always fun to watch accumulate. So I'm sure there's something I forgot. If there's anything that you want to add to the conversation, as usual, I would really love your opinions and your thoughts. Something about Strat that you like or don't like that I might have forgotten about. I'm sure I've been thinking about this and keeping notes for a while, but I'm sure there's something I forgot. Also, just reached 500 subscribers. I think I'm up to 503 now, and so that is really cool. I want to thank everybody for your support, your comments, your likes, subscriptions, everything. It's just really great. It's been a good experience for me to share my hobby with you guys, and the feedback and the response I've got just been wonderful. So when I started this back last August, I didn't think it would go this well, and so I'm very thankful that it has. So thank you for that, and that's all I got for now. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.